You know, Tyler, I look pretty tall, but my heels are high.
Well, that'll deceive a person, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, I am still a little bit taller than you.
Yeah, you're definitely much taller than the Baron Roger Daltrey.
Yeah, he's pretty short too.
Yeah, so he definitely had to wear heels.
So thank you for joining us on Classic Vinyl Podcast. This is a podcast where we listen to and review songs from the classic vinyl era of the 60s and 70s. I am one of your hosts, Justin, and once again joined by our other host, Tyler. You're here once again in the basement studio.
Yeah, I'm just a substitute for the real co-host.
Yeah, exactly. You're a substitute for the other guy.
Yeah, we're just waiting for him to show up.
I wish I would have substituted my Coke for gin tonight.
Wouldn't that be good?
Yeah, it would. And of course, getting into all this, we're going to do The Who today and their song Substitute. But I'm going to give you a little rundown on the band The Who first. One of my favorite bands. Not my very favorite band, but definitely up there. And it's another band I'm trying to get Tyler into. And I think Tyler, I'm pretty sure that most of The Who really plays to you because the lyrics are great for you.
Yes, they are.
I mean, the Who songs, especially Pete Townshend's writing, he has a way of enchanting and saying things kind of cheeky and things like that. And that really is what you're into.
Yeah, it's in a fun way, but it's also got a deeper meaning to it. And I really like that.
Yeah. So let me give you a little history on the Who. They're an English rock band formed in London, England in 1964. And of course, they consist of Pete Townshend, who is their main composer and guitarist and sometime vocalist. Roger Daltrey is their main vocalist, John Entwistle on bass, and Keith Moon on drums. Now, Pete Townshend met John Entwistle while attending high school in London. Entwistle joined the Detours with Roger Daltrey, and Townshend soon joined that band, and Keith Moon joined soon after.
And then soon after that, Jim Henson made a Muppet after Keith Moon.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Townshend and Daltrey soon came up with a band named The Who, but they changed their name to the High Numbers for a little while, then back to The Who. It's a whole long story, but I think I've said this a number of times during our Who episodes on this podcast is I think The Who is the best all-around band ever, without a doubt. The best live band ever. And one thing I probably haven't said is I think they have the best band name ever.
You know, that's fair.
So all in all, The Who has sold over 50 million albums worldwide. They actually arrived to the U.S. on the second wave of the British invasion, the reinforcements, as we have said.
Mm-hmm.
They're known for their very chaotic live performances, which is what I love about this band. With Pete Townshend smashing his guitar, they're well known for that. Keith Moon kicking over his drums, blowing up his drums, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so much of like the hardcore rock and roll lifestyle seems like it got its birth in this band.
It really did. And the funny thing is Pete Townshend destroying his guitar, which they're very well known for, that started as an accident. He just threw his guitar up in the air and it stuck in the ceiling.
Yeah. And people loved it.
Yeah, people loved it. So he started beating the shit out of it, you know?
Yeah.
The Who, though, talking about the band, they really did not become commercial superstars until the release of their rock opera Tommy in 1969. And especially that's when the popularity really hit in the United States. And that really helped propel the band as one of the biggest bands of the 70s. I mean, obviously this band wasn't quite as big as, say, Led Zeppelin, but they were up there. They were a big band. They had their farewell tour in 1982, which is kind of crazy because they're actually on their farewell tour right now.
Again?
43 years later. So I'm a little confused there, but the band got together again, obviously in 1989, the late 90s, up until Entwistle's death in 2002. And of course, Townshend and Daltrey, the only two remaining members of The Who, and they're supposedly on their swan song right now. We'll see, but both of them being in their 80s, I mean...
At least they seem like they still get along.
No, they don't get along.
They don't?
No, they don't get along. And they don't really seem to get along with anybody. They're kind of a shit show. Ringo Starr's son, Zach Starkey, is in the band, and he's been in The Who a long time. And funny story about him is even though his dad was Ringo Starr's really good friend, Keith Moon, is who taught Ringo Starr's son how to play the drums.
If I'm going to get taught how to play the drums, I want to be taught by Keith Moon.
Yeah, I think I could see that, but I've also think that'd be the last person I want to learn from.
Well, it might be the last person you ever do learn from because he lived a very riotous lifestyle himself.
Yes, he did. They've had a lot of big albums. Tommy, obviously being their biggest, has sold over 20 million copies. My favorite album of theirs, Who's Next, has sold about 4 to 5 million copies. All in all, they've released 12 studio albums. 10 of those studio albums were from 1965 to 1982. They did release one album in 2006 and one album in 2019. And as much as I love The Who, those newer albums are just tougher to get into. It's just not.
It's not the same.
It's not what you want from your band. And that's why these bands are out touring, playing their hits, right?
I see.
Because that's what made them great. So 16 live albums total. And obviously, like I've said, the best live band of all time, Live at Leeds, is an amazing album. So is Live at Hull. But 27 compilation albums, 4 EPs, and 4 soundtracks. Now, the first 2 studio albums, kind of a common British thing, they were different in the US and the UK. So you had My Generation was their first album in the UK. And in the US, it was called The Who Sings My Generation. You had a quick one in the UK, and here it was called Happy Jack, a tiny bit different running of songs and things like that. So all in all, they've had 10 albums in the top 10 in the UK. All their albums have been in the top 20 in the UK. Who's Next reached number 1. Quadrophenia, Tommy, and Face Dances all reached number 2. Now, 9 albums in the top 10 in the US. Quadrophenia and Who Are You both hit number 2. Who's Next, Face Dances, and Tommy all hit number 4. All in all, they've released 58 singles. 14 of those singles were in the top 10 in the UK. Only 2 singles reached number 2, I'm a Boy and My Generation. So no number 1 singles in the UK. 28 of those singles, though, were in the top 50. So in the US, I Can See for Miles was their top charting song in the US at number 9. So didn't even have a top 5 song in the US. And that's fine with me because I know what they are as a band. And as far as I'm concerned, these guys really kill it live. That's where their bread and butter is. As popular as Tommy was, and I do like Tommy, I don't like listening to the Tommy album. I want to hear Tommy live at Hull, or the extended Leeds version is so much stronger and powerful and live. But they did have 19 other singles in the top 50. So
no doubt about it. These guys are a live band.
Yeah, and their songs are still played on every classic rock and roll station you can possibly hear today. They're played on commercials and movies. I mean, they've certainly made their money off of them. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
The Crazy Keith Moon obviously passed away in 1978. And like I said earlier, John Entwistle passed away in 2002. And that was, even though Pete Townsend writes all the music and sings a lot of it, and Roger Daltrey's the voice, those guys were the heartbeat of the band as well. I mean, powerful driving force of the band.
This song in particular, when we listen to the live version, the bass is just so... I've never heard bass like that. It is just dark chocolate to the ears.
Well, John Entwistle is one of those guys, and you can see this in a lot of the Who songs, he is a lead bass player.
Yeah.
With Pete Townsend really, in a lot of occasions, just playing rhythm guitar. But nobody can deny the Who are certainly innovators, and a lot of people have picked up on their music. They're amazing as far as I'm concerned, but from rock opera to feedback to destroying other instruments on stage to just good old music, they're a great band.
Yeah.
So do you want to get to the song review?
Let's do it.
And now it's time for the song review.
So today we're doing The Who and their 1966 song Substitute. So the single was released on March 4th of 1966. Now the B-side in the UK was a song called Circles originally, but the song was released actually 3 different times as a single, and all 3 times it had a different B-side. In the US, the B-side was a song called Waltz for a Pig, which is kind of a cool song, and we probably ought to review that at one point because I know you'll like that one.
It sounds like it's right up my alley.
So like most of the Who songs, this song is written by Pete Townsend, is sang by Roger Daltrey. This is a non-album single, which was very common in Britain at the time. It was recorded at Olympic Studios in London and produced by Pete Townsend himself. And it is said that Pete Townsend drew inspiration from the Rolling Stones song 19th Nervous Breakdown, and he has said in interviews he drew inspiration from the lyrics from Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, The Track of My Tears. I don't see it, but I guess I don't know what he drew inspiration from. I don't see the similarities in the songs, but
no, I see more inspiration from the Beatles in this.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't see it as much. I consider Pete kind of an innovator in himself, and I guess that's what's so good about music, right? Because they can be innovators, but they always draw something from someone.
Yeah.
And back and forth. I mean, a lot of people could say he drew inspiration from the Beatles or the Stones or whatever, but I mean, Paul McCartney drawing inspiration for Helter Skelter because he heard that I Can See for Miles was one of the heaviest songs ever written. I mean, and that's been said a million times, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But this is the first single The Who released after breaking their contract with their former manager and producer, Shel Talmy. Mainly because Pete Townsend wanted to take over the production himself, and this was actually the first song he produced for the band. And part of the deal with Shel Talmy was he would receive royalties on the releases for the next 5 years, and I guess good for him, as the next 5 years were the big years for the Who, so he made a lot of money by not doing anything, so worked really well. But the lyrics in this song, kind of as we were stating, they're very clever, they're self-deprecating and sardonic. It explains all the ways that he is a substitute for something better. It's kind of interesting the way I like the self-deprecation in the lyrics. I think it gives a humor, but it also gives a seriousness to it in a way. Some of the lyrics, the simple things you see are all complicated. You know, I look all white, but my dad was black. My fine-looking suit, it's really made out of sack. I try walking forward, but my feet walk back. Now that's one you didn't hear. No. And the reason is because on the US version, they didn't like the I look all white, but my dad was black. But they had to cut that in with I try walking forward, but my feet walk back. Which is a pretty cool lyric too, but
it doesn't have the same ring to it or same shock value as I look all white, but my dad is black.
Well, and I looked at you when we first listened to it. We listened to it a couple times, the studio version, and a couple times the live version. And I looked at you during that line on the first one, and I saw the little grin on your face about every line. So, yeah. And the funny thing about that on the US version, it actually was about a minute shorter because the complete second verse was cut out and the choruses were edited. So it was changed around a little bit.
Now, it sounds like these verses repeat. Is that right?
Yeah, there are a couple of repeating verses. Yeah, no doubt about it. So now the one thing that's very important and strong on the song is the bass solo. And that kind of gets into what I was saying earlier is John Entwistle is a lead bass player without a doubt. And it was originally going to be a guitar solo, but you know, John Entwistle got to this part when recording it and he decided to turn his bass up and make it a bass solo. And listening to it, they made the right decision because it's amazing.
Yes, it is. And, you know, this is one where I can just hear Pete Townsend like looking around like, what the devil's going on? But it's so beautiful the way it all came together. Can't imagine it coming together any other way.
No, I agree. And there's one kind of funny quote from Keith Moon. There was a book called Life and Death of a Rock Legend by Tony Fletcher. And apparently Keith Moon, after listening to the recording of the song, he was very paranoid, insisting that this was not him drumming on the song. And the band had gone behind his back and, you know, got another drummer to record the song.
They do.
Yeah, as they do. Like, who's going to change? I should say who's going to change it, but probably Pete, because Pete said that he hated Keith Moon's drumming at times. And I think that's more in jest in a way because he was so hard to keep time with. You know?
And you can hear that very strongly in the live version because he packs so much drum into it that you lose the beat.
Yeah, a lot of times you do, especially live. But John Entwistle actually has refuted Keith Moon's paranoia, and he says that's ridiculous. He said, I could hear Keith screaming on the recording, and it's a difficult fill that no one else could have filled. So obviously this is Keith Moon on this, but this song itself reached number 5 in the UK charts, but did not chart in the US or Canada. And I think the main reason for that is at the time, this is before the Who had really hit big in the States until Tommy had come out. So before we get to the song, though, what is your history with the Who Substitute?
I might have heard this song a couple of times in passing. I've never really sat down and listened to it till today.
Would you know it was the Who just by hearing it?
No. Well, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah, because it's got kind of their older sound to it.
Like I said, it's got a little bit of a Beatles sound to it, like early Beatles. And
I think that's kind of how a lot of the British music from the 64, 5, and 6 sounds like, to be honest with you.
exactly. So this was a little bit of an introduction for me.
Yeah. So what do you think of this song after listening to it a few times?
It's got an excellent guitar open, followed by everybody joins in. This song is beautiful. It's got a classic sound to it that just, it's so fun to listen to. And everybody plays their instruments in this band so perfectly well. And Roger Daltrey, we've said it before, you can put him up against any vocalist. He has, for being such a small little guy, boy, he packs so much power in that voice. And he's so good. And their backup, I'm guessing that's Pete Townsend on backup.
It is.
Yeah, and he's really good back there. It's surprising how high of a tenor he gets when he does backup. Because, I mean, I listened to him, and he really sounds like he's a baritone to listen to him talk. But then you have him sing, and he sings this beautiful high tenor. And, that's what you get with The Who. A lot of that backup is Pete Townsend. A real sweet melodic sound to have it high-pitched like that. Keith Moon. So listening to this thing, Keith Moon, we've said it before, he's not just a drummer. This guy plays the drums so... He's abusing the crap out of these drums is what he's doing.
He's an animal.
Yeah, he is. He is animal. And it's so clear. He is beating the crap out of these drums. And then you play it live. And those, you want to call like, some sort of drum protective services, because there's so much abuse happening right on stage in front of everybody. Is great. Let me tell you, Justin, listening to this, the studio version, I'll reflect on this later in the rating, but man, if I can recommend anybody, anything to somebody, I need you to listen to the live version versus the studio version, because the live version is so, it just turns it up an extra notch, and it's great. Lyric wise, this has everything that I love about saying clever things or in a kind of a silly sounding way. And I really enjoyed it. The play on words, and just, it is self-deprecating that he's not a tall person. He's just wearing high heels. So it's deceptive. It's not a fine suit. It's made out of a sack.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of these situations where you're like, oh, that's a really good looking, well put together person. And then you get a closer look and it's like, well, actually, this is just made out of an old flour sack, my suit.
Yeah, I look pretty young, but I'm just backdated.
Yeah.
I just find that funny.
But it happens every now and again. You run into somebody with a plastic spoon in their mouth and stuff. I was looking when he starts singing about his house that's in the east facing south or something like that. I was curious because like the east end of London is the rough end, and I know that it's got a reputation for that. I'm not sure if there's any animosity between the north side of the Thames and the south side, though.
That I don't know, but there could be. I'm sure it's a little tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if there's some sort of significance to that lyric, but I don't know. And that's one thing that this song has left me with, is a desire to do a little bit more research and learn a little bit more. So what are your thoughts on this one, Justin?
So I've always liked this song, but like all Who songs, especially the early ones, like Substitute, Happy Jack, I'm a Boy, they're good songs, but I don't really care for them as much on tape, the studio versions, than when you listen to them live, because they just generate so much more power. But the one thing I can say about this studio version is, it has that classic guitar riff that opens up this song, but then when the bass kicks in, even on this early recording in 66, the bass and drums are the star of this song.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd say the bass and drums and even the lyrics. The vocals kind of a little, I shouldn't say, Roger Daltrey, I'll say it a million times, I think he's an amazing singer and the best rock and roll singer there is. But this is early production, and it's kind of mixed funny on the vocal, but the drums and the bass kick throughout this thing. They're absolutely amazing. The bass solo in the middle of this song, I don't know how often that was done by 66, but it's pretty powerful in this song.
It sure is.
It's got a short little guitar solo. Right after the bass solo, there's like another chorus, and then there's just kind of a little, it's not even really a guitar solo, it's just kind of the intro again a couple times over. But Yeah, the bass and the drums are the star of this song, and it's a powerful song if you go listen to it live. The Live at Leeds version is pretty amazing on this. There's a few other live versions, but if you know the Who and like the Who or like live music, you know what's cool about like listening to Live at Leeds or Live at Hull is, you know, they didn't have all the tapes and all the backing things and all the tricks and stuff. This is a band. This is a real band with a crazy ass drummer, a lead bass player, and, you know, Pete Townsend, who is an amazing writer and a pretty damn good guitar player himself and a decent singer and the best rock and roll singer of all time and the best band name. So I guess if you can't tell already, I'm a fan of the Who.
Yeah,
and
as you should be.
And I'm a fan of this song. But when we get to the rating, I'll kind of decipher what I think with the studio version as opposed to the live version. But
all right,
do you want to get to the rating?
Let's do it.
Song rating.
Okay, listener, if this is your first episode, I'll briefly explain our rating scale. It is 0 to 10, 10 being the best. And I put this one way up there. I was putting it at 8, and I thought, you know, it's too good of a song for 8. I bump it up another half point. I don't often go the half points, but this one gets a 8.5 from me. Now, the live version cranks that all the way up to 11. It's just so precious. I love the live version, and I'm so privileged that I got to listen to that tonight. So where do you put this one, Justin?
So we're really similar because you're giving it an 8.5. I give the recorded version a 7 to 8. Let's just call it an 8 because it's a good song. I give the live version a 9. So I guess that averages me out at an 8.5 as well. But there isn't much Who that I think Quadrophenia is a good example. I heard it live and it doesn't change it as much live because it's just a different kind of music. But Tommy is a pretty subdued rock opera until you hear it live, and it just blows everything out of the water. This song is very much in that arena. It's just amazing how powerful a song that can go from a, you know, studio to the stage, how strong it can be. But an amazing song. I love the Who. They're a great band, and I know we'll have a bunch more of their songs on here in the future because guess what? I like the Who.
And so do I.
So that's the Who and Substitute. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, want to let us know what you think of our ratings or what you would rate Substitute, send them to classicvinylpodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you have any songs or albums you'd like us to rate, send them there as well. And like always, we really appreciate you taking your time to listen. Until next time, see ya.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Classic Vinyl Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Classic Vinyl Podcast for updates, and also share us with your music-loving friends.